Welcome to the reading of Duplicity and Duress, Snap Factories in the Making by Erin Vance, my pseudonym. I'll be reading from Chapter 12, entitled Mitzi and the Bleeding Orange. The hard truth is that every time we let someone undercut our dignity and integrity, we are colluding, helping them hurt us. That's an excerpt from Emotional Blackmail by Susan Forward, Ph.D. Mitzi and the Bleeding Orange. She left social work to pursue acupuncture and turned out to be one of the most off-balance people I've ever met in my entire life. That would include a full 39 years at that point in time. And I've interacted with a fair share of people burdened by some very serious issues, so this is no small statement. I'm sorry if this sounds downright mean, insensitive, and inconsiderate, but I ask you, please forgive me. Compassion and empathy have been my middle name since birth. I need a break on this one. Mitzi, the name I chose for her, is the kind of person for whom no empathy should be bestowed. By this I mean, I can't imagine anyone, not even the most forgiving nun, scrounging up even the minutest amount to offer her. Mitzi is technically American, but was raised for many years overseas behind the East Wall when it was still up, by parents who she said were involved with world diplomacy. That may be true, but my experience with this despicable creature leaves me inclined to believe her parents' employment and motives weren't so much about diplomacy as, say, keeping up appearances. And by that I mean keeping up appearances at all costs. Otherwise, the delicate facade they directed would crumble, break, and shatter around them, revealing the hollow and empty shells of human beings that they are. Status, clout, titles, winning, and one-upping are the types of cold-blooded virtues proving to be of utmost importance to Mitzi. Mitzi, the spawn of her no doubt egocentric ancestors. Healing people through a respected ancient practice like Eastern medicine simply will never be part of Mitzi's true nature. This became obvious to me within just a few short weeks of renting a room inside the house she called home. It happens to be a house she stole out from under her former partner's nose. The house was in her partner's name, but somehow her partner fled town, probably out of fear and with few belongings, and now Mitzi rules the roost all alone in the creaky old cobweb-ridden place that sits just on the edge of the coveted art museum area of Philadelphia. I came to know her in this light very quickly after moving into a small room within her two-story house. In fact, I realized what she really was just one day after moving in. I'll put it this way. Mitzi's priorities were well indicated the day I noticed she needed to refer to her acupuncture clients as patients, not clients. Not that acupuncture isn't a practice deserving of the kinds of terms that connote superiority. It's the way she said it. Eastern medicine is absolutely deserving of special recognition. In fact, my respect for the practice is immense, especially now. It's just that on this one morning, shortly after moving into Mitzi's art museum status symbol, I found her in front of the house watering plants with an oversized watering can, talking to her neighbors and gussying up an attitude while she spun a tale about the kind of office hours she dedicated to her quote, end quote, patients. It was the way she said it, and as if she was one of Philadelphia's top 10 neurosurgeons that had been practicing for more than 25 years. She morphed into a falsehood of supremacy, and then proceeded to treat me, when I stepped out to say good morning, like a houseboy who she needed to shoo fly away back into the house. As if she was embarrassed, a mutt like me, who by the way was paying rent to support her complete lie of a life, would assume I could participate in the conversation she was having with her neighbors. The neighbors themselves weren't exactly among the high and mighty, mind you, but they were homeowners, and I think that was enough to meet the fake criteria of eminency within her delusion. Her condescending demeanor was, well, let me just say it, outright blatant. What was also blatant to someone like me was that she was precariously tiptoeing along the edge of a very delicate and serious state of most of us call sanity, desperate to feel above others by whatever means possible. The mountain peak she was balancing upon, though, was crumbling, piece by tiny piece, out from under her bare feet, slippery from sweat, which were trembling, slipping, sliding, grasping for any kind of stronghold on the cliff. anyone visiting her so-called space of healing was a patient, and don't you forget it, not a client. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me serious practitioners of acupuncture in the most sincere and genuine sense do not feel a need to indulge in a Western lexicon replete with hierarchical intonations. Not as I understand it. It is also my understanding that Eastern philosophy is not focused on collecting accolades. This then adds to Mitzi's lack of credibility, considering she actually was recognized among the quote-unquote best of in a tiny magazine that listed best ofs within the community where her office was located. I know for a fact, no evidence needed, that such a label, best of, is an outright lie, especially in her case. It is fake, fabricated, and made for show. It would have to be. It is so phony, in fact, I'm inclined to believe her office is a front for something else, like non-consensual human experimentation by some official department, and that she barely practices any true healing techniques at all. Come to think of it, her office is in the same building as survivors in transition. Now that I've gotten that off my chest, and I thank you for indulging me, I will describe her physical and non-physical traits as a person. Mitzi has fiery red hair, freckled skin, a taut face, thin lips, a spastic jumpy mannerism, as if she was wound too tightly and couldn't help but need to bark and pounce on anyone or anything possessing the slightest vulnerability. She needed people on whose backs she could step upon, sort of like a vampire needing to leech the blood off the innocent. But she had a look about her that was familiar, to me at least, as a white bread person. In fact, I mentioned spotting someone around town resembling her, and when I told her this, she said, "Oh, you saw one of my people," and laughed it off. I will admit, however, I felt an unmated attraction to her, initially, that is. Let's just say this, I would have gone home with her if she were, in fact, the last one still standing at the bar for final call. I say this in an endearing way, not in a misogynistic way. Please, I'm nicer than this chapter might reflect. But any desire to go home with her in that way took a sharp turn after knowing her on a more full-time basis for only a couple of days. Misty and I originally crossed paths because of our participation on Team Farmonica's Dragon Boat Race crew during the spring and summer of 2010. Every week, I rode my bike all the way from the neighborhood location down in Center City to the riverfront path all the way up to where the practice took place on the docks located a half a mile or so past Boathouse Row along Kelly Drive. Mitzi stood out as the one who asserted herself a little too much, in a needy way. I figured she was overcoming something in her life, which compelled her to work so hard at it. On the actual race day, however, I didn't ride my bike. I joined a carpool she coordinated that consisted of 4 passengers to show up on the banks, the Schuylkill Banks. While in the car, a discussion got underway about where each of us lived, where we came from, and how we wound up here in this whole dragon boat race thing. Every single one of us was new to it, and most of us were recruited by people sitting on the board for Team Farmonica. We all ho-hummed saying, "Oh, you too, huh? That's how I got here," and chuckled about our new adventures with paddling dragon boats down the river. Somehow the conversation took a turn to housing. That is when I asserted my desire to move out of the apartment I was living in at the time, which was located directly above a bar called the Dirty Dive. More specifically, my apartment was above the section of the bar where a row of booths was located along with a jukebox and at times karaoke happy partiers singing songs of the past like, "Come on Eileen, oh I swear what he means, at this moment you mean everything. You in that dress, my thoughts I confess, verge on dirty, oh come on Eileen." I remember it all so well, the lyrics come with such great ease. I said I was looking to save money and that my eyes were set on ultimately moving to the West Coast. Mitzi's ears perked up, like a border collie on the move to wrangle in the sheep. Her spine stiffened to an erect position which pushed her back away from the driver's seat. At which point she very quickly informed me of the second bedroom she wanted to rent out in her house. She, too, wanted to save money. It would be a win-win situation. It was decided we would connect later that week when she would show me the place and we could mutually decide if all was copacetic. A hopeful start to a full day of racing dragon boats up and down the Schuylkill River with teams from within the city and just outside of it. I'll stop there with the chapter on Mitzi. If you want to know more about what Mitzi was willing to do for this particular situation and experience that I wound up having, please buy the book, because you won't believe how far this one went to participate in slaughtering a fairly nice and decent person. Thank you. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.